In podcasts, content is represented by two separate yet equally important groups, the show and the footnotes. These are their stories.
Well, I mean, I think it could have been a 2-hour show if we kept talking about Star Wars. But...
Oh, yes, good God, don't think I've done that. Especially if I go down the radio series.
I don't know if we've done an episode yet where we haven't discussed Star Wars. I've been in 7 of the 8 episodes. I think we've discussed Star Wars 7 times.
You must have at least mentioned George Lucas in every episode.
I currently work with a guy who is massive into his Star Wars.
Yeah.
But he's, I don't know, 18 years younger than me or something.
Yeah.
So it's a massive, like I don't know, culture shock that the things that are important to him in Star Wars are completely different to the things that are important to me in Star Wars. His favourite trilogy is episodes 1 to 3.
Yeah, because he was in the right age for it, yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely loves all of the animated stuff and comics that came out in the early noughties. He's talking about characters that of the extended universe that aren't the 90s extended universe.
Yeah.
Of books that came out to follow, when the initial hype died off. It's just so strange to find someone that is absolutely obsessed with Star Wars or watches Star Wars every month, we did as kids. But in a completely different way. It's just so strange. Just talking to him about it.
Yeah, in some ways that's what makes it work, though, is because you've got, to me, Star Wars is that original trilogy.
Yeah.
As much as I watch the other ones, and then to a certain generation, the prequels are, and even the new Disney ones, that'll be somebody else's Star Wars, as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
And because it's spread over such a time, that's what people go on. And I think that's why it works so well. And then you've got all the animated stuff that I've not watched it all yet. I've still not watched the Clone Wars, even though I own it. I keep getting around to it. It's just time. And I've not read all the books. I've read most of the 90s ones, but I've not read a lot of stuff in the sort of early noughties. There was a bunch, as you said, there was a bunch of stuff. And the newer stuff I've not read, bar the novelizations. I don't think I've read anything other than Off the Beaten Track. Though I've obviously been reading the new comics, which have actually been really quite good. That they released. They've just finished a run of them, so I was waiting for the run to finish, and it's 50 comics now. And I said, oh God, read 50 of these bloody things.
Yeah, I think the last Star Wars comics I read was probably the Rogue Squadron ones, when they first came out. But that was, I don't know, long time ago now.
Yeah. Howdy, back in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been the 90s, yeah. But they were quite a big deal at the time. Rogue Squadron was quite a big deal, wasn't it?
They should have made that film. They should have made that.
They should have.
Yeah, because it was up to being made, wasn't it, by the Wonder Woman director, which actually probably I didn't particularly like Wonder Woman. It was probably a nice miss on it, but they really, really should have made it. You never know. They should have really done a proper version of all Timothy Zahn's Prawn series properly.
Yeah, that's the one that people really gets people. I've got a feeling they're going to do that, though. I do feel that.
Yeah, well, Ashoka, they sort of stole bits from it. What they did for the back, and I assume they're doing into the second season of that, and they're probably going to steal some more off that trilogy as well. And that, actually, when I watched that, have you watched it?
Oh, I haven't, no. The last thing I watched was Andor, I think.
Yeah, Andor's excellent. Andor was really, really good.
Yeah, me and my son sat down and watched Andor. He quite liked that.
I liked it because they did something a bit different and they did it well. And as much as I'm not a big fan of Rogue One as a film and as a story thing, him as a character came across really well. But
I liked Rogue One more than I liked the episodes 7 to 9, personally.
Yeah, my issues, this is me being pedantic, my issues with Rogue One is it was rewriting the radio series. It sounds weird, because the radio series had a load of stuff about how they got to the plans. And Rogue One basically rewrote that. And that is just me, because of my age and what I was really into Star Wars, wrote it. But I really didn't like it the first time I watched it, and I've watched it many times since then, and I've actually grown to like it a lot more. But one of those new films that I really like is the Han Solo one, which I didn't like when I first watched it. But the more I've watched it, the more I've come to like it.
I've only seen it once, but I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was going to be trash.
Once I got used to the guy playing,
trash.
once I got used to the guy playing Han Solo, and Donald Glover as Lando was perfectly cast as well. But that's the thing. I said there's so much out there. That's why when people start ranting about how they hate Star Wars and hate Disney Star Wars, I think, but just like the bit you like. It doesn't destroy. Or you had the bit when people hated the prequels, and they've now destroyed my childhood. No, they haven't. It's still the same as it was. It's just move on if you don't like it.
You don't have. If you don't like something, you don't have to watch it again.
Yeah, and I've grown to like the prequels. I never originally particularly liked them that much. I've actually grown to really like them.
This is the issue with a lot of this stuff. Is I like it. I like it fine. It's just not as good. It's just sometimes things aren't going to be as good. You can't have like everything that comes out on TV or movies isn't going to be 10 out of 10. It's just not. You know, you got to have good stuff. You've got to have bad stuff. Otherwise, there's no texture. And unfortunately, they've had more misses than hits, maybe. But it doesn't mean you just throw it all away and none of it's enjoyable.
Out of the new Disney ones, I really like The Last Jedi because I think they dared to do something a bit different with that.
I'm sorry, but they fucked that whole arc up when Rey didn't turn to the dark side. Rey should have turned to the dark side. They hinted it heavily. It works perfectly. It makes all three movies make sense, which it don't make any sense in the end because she doesn't turn to the dark side. If Kylo kills Rey because she turns to the dark side, the entire arc makes sense. Okay, they still need heavy editing because they're way too long. None of them deserve to be like 2.5 to 3 hours long. If they make them the same length as the original trilogy by editing them down a little bit and they change that arc, I think it's actually quite a good trilogy. They didn't have the stones to really land it in the end.
I think part of the issue was nobody went in with a vague story for the whole 3 films. Them as individual films. And I know George Lucas lies his ass off about his plan, that I had a plan for 9 films. I'm not sure from what I read around it. But for the trilogy, he had a basic idea of what he wanted to do with it. Yeah. And I get the feeling with the Disney ones is they let JJ do his own thing, then they let the next one do their own thing, and then they did their own thing again, rather than having a vague idea of what the whole plot of all 3 films was going to be. Yeah. Yes, it can change as it goes along, but they didn't seem to have an overall idea. That's why if you watch them, they do feel like very individual films. They don't feel like a total trilogy.
No, they don't. It feels very thrown together, doesn't it? Unfortunately.
But I still enjoy them. There's bits about them I still enjoy.
Yeah. I think with all these things, I believe just give someone $100 million, which is easier said than done, and let them re-edit them. Just let them redo them because it's been shown to work before.
Yeah.
I think there are good movies in there. They've just been stifled.
Hey, we've got what we've got. But I think the problem is Disney brought it, and they just thought we've got to do everything we can with this immediately, and they just rushed it all.
Yeah. There's so much money in it, wasn't there? They made so much money. Those first 2 movies, especially. They made so much money on them. And I don't think until the 3rd movie people realised it wasn't going to be what they wanted.